This video is for the second quiz in our Identities unit that is on solving. And this is homework, which is page 40. So to solve number 1, I'm going to factor out a 2. No, I'm not. That's harder. I'm going to add this 2 to the right and divide both sides by 2. And we get cosine of theta equals 1. And our answers have to be from 0 to 2 pi. So I drew all my special pictures up here. So where is the x value positive 1? That's here at 0 or 2 pi. Now usually the directions would say something like this with the inequality. So I would include 2 pi and not 0, or the other way around, I would include a 0 and not 2 pi. That this doesn't specifically say that, so then I'm just gonna write both. Okay, number 2, we have to factor. So it might be easier to think of the factoring without the sign in there and then do that, put the signs back later. So this is a box method or split the middle factoring because this coefficient is not a 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. So the only way to multiply that is 1 times 2, and that adds to 3. So I'm gonna box method factor. So I put the 2w in the top left, I put the 1 in the bottom right, and then I put my split values in the other diagonals. The only way to multiply to 1 is 1 and 1. But then to get a 2w here, if I do 2w times 1, that equals that. So then this must be a 1w. So our factors are 2w plus 1 and w plus 1. Now I picked w for Weiss. You can pick your initial, you can pick whatever you want. I just really don't recommend x since there's already an x in the equation. So we didn't really have w, we had sine. So this is 2 sine of x plus 1 and sine of x plus 1 equal to 0 that we have to solve. So I'm going to set each factor equal to 0. I'll do this one first, it's easier. So I move the negative 1, I move the 1 to the right by subtracting. And then I think, okay, what angle is the y value negative 1? That's here, so 3 pi over 2. And then I'm gonna isolate the sine x in this problem. Then I have to think, okay, what angle gives me sine equal to negative a half? So let's first just do the half part. This is opposite over hypotenuse. So I go, okay, what is opposite of the 1 is pi over 6. So pi over 6 is my reference angle. That's not gonna be my final answer. Sine is negative in these quadrants. So a little more than pi is 7 pi over 6. Oops. 7 pi over 6. And then in this fourth quadrant, a little less than 2 pi is 11 pi over 6. So here's my 3 answers. The way I think of these is this is 6 pi over 6 at pi, and 12 is 2 pi over 6. So this angle is a little more, which is the 7, and this angle over here is a little less, which is the 11. Okay, I'm gonna do 3 on separate paper. So for number 3, I'm gonna subtract the sine to the left side. You may never, ever, ever divide by a function. So I can't divide both sides by sine x. You eliminate one of your answers, and that's not okay. So now I'm gonna factor out a sine. Set each factor equal to 0. I'm gonna add the 1 to the right, and now solve both. Oh, here's the benefit of that. All right, let's go back to my pictures. Sine is the y value, so which angle gives me a y value of 0? And that's at 0 and pi. For this one, what angle gives me a y value of positive 1 is up here at pi over 2. All right, let's do 4. Do that back over here on my sheet. I have room. Divide both sides by the square root of 3. Okay, so this is, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So which angle gives me an opposite of 1 and an adjacent of root 3? An opposite of 1 is pi over 6. So x is pi over 6, and tangent is positive here, which is the pi over 6, and down here. So if pi is 6 over 6, my other angle is 7 over 6. All right, and last but not least, number 5 is already factored. So I'm going to set each factor equal to 0. Isolate the cosine. Now I'm going to go back up to my pictures. Okay. Which angle gives me an adjacent over hypotenuse of 1/2? That's going to be pi over 3. And cosine, this is positive. It's positive in the first and fourth quadrant. Oops, you can't see that. First and fourth. So here's my pi over 3. If I go all the way around, 2 pi is 6 over 3. So this angle is a little less, so 5 pi over 3. Cosine, again, adjacent over hypotenuse. So the angle that gives me an adjacent of root 3 is pi over 6. But I need the negative quadrants for cosine. So that's here and here. So it's going to be 5 pi over 6 and 7 pi over 6. Because it's a little more than 1, I'm sorry, a little less than 1 and a little more than 1. So here's our 4 answers for number 5. And that's all of the homework.